I'm going to invite my friends Jenna and Kaylin up right away. If you guys want to come stand right here, and we'll get going. These are my two favorite so far right now. I'll throw Leanna in that too because Leanna went on the trip with us also, and she sang this morning. But these are my two favorites. So a couple weeks ago, I had the absolute pleasure of traveling down to Houston with 26 youth here from Trinity and 5 other adult leaders. And we attended the 2018 National Youth Gathering. What is a youth gathering, you might ask? If you haven't grown up around the Lutheran Church or haven't attended one when you were a youth, our predecessor body, our earlier Lutheran churches, and now the ELCA, for every 3 years, we've been gathering together, and this year it was over 30,000 of us were gathered together to come, to learn, to worship, to have fun, to interact with each other in the city of Houston. And the theme is what you see up on the screen. This changes everything. You may ask, what changes everything, right? That's probably what this group of kids, I'm going to see if we'll get that going. There they are. That's us at 6 in the morning getting ready on the bus. And I'm sure maybe some of them were asking, what am I doing? And why is it so early? And why do I have to ride a bus for 20-some hours, right? What changes everything? And the theme comes off of this text from Ephesians, which happened right before our Ephesians text this morning. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing, it is a gift from God. What changes everything? So these two are going to share a little bit about their week. We're going to have Jenna start with us, and then we'll invite Kaylin up too. So come on up.
I will share with you a few highlights from our mass gathering and our interactive day. The mass gatherings were held at night and on Sunday morning in the Energy Stadium. All 30,000 of us gathered together for celebrating in music, dance, and hearing speakers. One band was named LZ7 that came all the way from England. It was awesome to feel the love and support from everyone together. It was also a great time for our group from Trinity to bond. Twice our group was on the main floor for the stadiums for the gatherings. Each day had a theme. The first day was God's calling changes everything. The second day was God's love changes everything. The third was God's grace changes everything. And the fourth was God's hope changes everything. We had speakers who shared very personal stories and lives in their faith journey. 2 speakers stood out for me this week. One speaker was Jenny Owens. She was a singer-songwriter. She created over 200 songs, and one of her songs was considered for an Oscar. During her speech, I noticed slightly her arm moving back and forth, and I realized that she was reading Braille. She told us that she was a child, she became blind. She shared with us her journey of pursuing her calling in music. She said that although music had been a part of her life, she struggled to know if it was even her calling, even in college. She said that she figured out that each of us needs to keep pursuing our talents that we are passionate about because we all have individual gifts to share. She said that our greater calling is to love, that while we are on our journey, we can love God and show love to those around us. Another speaker was Marlon Hall, who was a storyteller for a folklore films director. Marlon was a very energetic speaker, and he wanted to inspire us to make a mark on the world, and we make that mark with the love of God. Marlon told us his story of him really wanting a child with his wife, but after several years, they thought it wouldn't happen for them. They wished, hoped, and prayed for it, but it did not seem like it would be a reality. He said that their expectation had been burned to ashes. However, he said through God's love, they were given a beautiful daughter. They named her Phoenix because the things that we have hoped for can rise from the ashes with God's love. Phoenix joined him on stage that night, which was very memorable. I would also like to share a few things about one of my favorite days on the trip, called Interactive Day. Interactive Day was in this huge convention center, split up into so many different areas and activities we could do. One area had a zip line and a swing jump, and other areas had basketball, dodgeball, and other activities. One activity I found was very interesting was a simulation of a growing season in Africa. We dug through soil with our bare hands to find seeds, and we had to carry a 50-pound jug of water back and forth to see how difficult their daily challenge was. At the end of our activity, we counted our seedlings to learn if we had enough crop to feed our family and to sell to the community. Also, in multiple stations around the convention center, we got to read and write on the wall, like with questions like, "What does God mean to you?" and "What is your purpose?" While much of the interactive day was focused on activity, these questions really made me think through all the chaos and fun. Now, with 10,000 kids in a convention center, we took the opportunity to meet, trade little pins, bracelets, and take pictures with as many people from as many states as possible. Throughout our trip, we met people from 27 states, including Hawaii and Alaska, and also Puerto Rico. I even saw my uncle, who was a pastor in Arizona, and my cousin. I loved meeting people there because we are all here for the same reason: to celebrate God's grace, hope, and love changes everything.
Our last full day in Houston was the service learning day. We spent the morning at the Houston Food Bank, where we unloaded pallets of food, repackaged it, and sent it out. All in all, we reloaded 88 pallets, which was 41,000 pounds of food. I think that was one of my favorite days because we really got to see the impact of what we were doing. With all of us there, it was pretty chaotic at first, but eventually we got into a system that made us really able to put ourselves behind and focus on the people that we would be able to help through our actions. I think that the service day was when I really started to connect with the other people on the trip, because we were all tired, we were sore from lifting the heavy boxes, and we weren't necessarily comfortable or happy, but we were still able to enjoy ourselves, and I found myself laughing more than I expected that I would. I think that one of the things that struck me the most about this trip was how much connection there was, not just between the people of Trinity, because we did spend 40 hours in a bus in total, and then the rest of the week together, but also the connection that there was between the over 30,000 people there. During the mass gatherings, the energy in the NRG stadium would shift, and you could feel the people being moved by the speakers, the songs, and their own feelings about God. I think that it was really powerful to see how many people there were and how altogether we were able to change something.
Thank you, girls. So Jenna mentioned, don't go anywhere quite yet. Jenna was talking about our themes for each night, that God's call changes everything, God's love changes everything, God's grace changes everything, God's hope changes everything. These were the themes of each night in those mass gatherings where we had a number of speakers who came and talked about what that message meant for them and what that message from Ephesians meant for them, that they, no matter what they've gone through, no matter what they are experiencing, God is for them. And it was powerful. And then there were some speakers that challenged us. There were some speakers who touched on some very heavy, hard subjects. And yet they still reminded us that God's love and hope and grace and call is meant for them. And then finally in Sunday morning, we got this: how is God's call and grace and love and hope for us? It's because Jesus Christ changes everything. And that is what Bishop Eaton preached on Sunday morning when we were down on the floor. That because of Christ, Jesus changes everything for us. This theme, this changes everything. It's not just something we did this summer in Houston, but our camps have also been experiencing this theme. This is the theme of the Bible studies for the number of kids from Trinity who've gone up to Luther Park. They've been studying this subject too, and they've been hearing that message of how God's hope and grace and love changes everything in their life. And one of my hopes is for these youth and these adults who came with, but not just them, but for everyone who experiences the ministry of Trinity Lutheran Church in Eau Claire, is to recognize God's grace and love and hope in their life, no matter what and no matter who they are. These are some of the numbers that they threw out on us at the last, but there were 31,242 registered participants this year. So that's a good chunk of people. The youth and their adult leaders helped raise $260,000 for their offering for God's Global Barnyard. Larry Stute was one of the people who donated some pints of blood, and so we raised 1,248 pints of blood, including 2 of Larry's. Some people gave some hair, but also you see just the impact around Houston and being out and about in that city and being welcomed by that city. What a wonderful welcome they gave to us. And this quote, I think, is the thing, like I said, what I want everyone to take apart when they experience the ministry of Trinity. I think this Elizabeth Peter, one of our speakers, sums it up well, that you matter, that you are loved, and that there's no limit to God's grace. I take that as one of the biggest things. And so, if you ever want to ask anybody, there's the list. They look small because there were so many of them. I just had to cram all their names. So if you recognize any of those names on that list, ask them about the trip. Ask them what they took from it. The congregation did a wonderful job of supporting this group this year, and I'm so thankful for that. So thank you to you also for supporting this group, for helping making financial contributions, and also for praying for them. The endowment fund gave us a wonderful gift to help cover our adult chaperones, and I'm very grateful for that also. And then there's us on the floor closing worship on Sunday morning as we recognize God's grace and how Jesus changes everything in our lives. So thank you all. May God bless all of us. Amen.